Okay, so we're moving onwards with the series, Knowing the Unknowable. Knowledge is something that is a creation of a human being by our intelligence rather, and our experience with the matter, how to handle the matter, what are the secrets the matter is holding, and then I receive that knowledge, I transfer it to my children, I transfer it to my friends, and they utilize the knowledge, and the world goes on. The knowledge is the oil behind the machinery of the sansar, of the society. But that's all there is. Giving an undue importance to the knowledge has created our belief in knowledge so much that unknowable is becoming neglected. And in fact, without the unknowable, knowledge would not have been possible either. So, by knowing the unknowable, which is granted it's unknowable, but it is knowable, but it's unknowable, kind of there is like a dichotomy there. But it is there, it does exist. And until we realize and feel or experience the unknowable segment of our life, we're not going to have a balanced life. As long as we have only the knowledge and not the push or the force, the spiritual force of the unknowable, the life is going to be remaining unbalanced. And that is, we see it everywhere. You know, the teenagers coming to my office, I ask him, what are you going to be? Oh, well, whatever brings me the maximum money, I'm going to do that. He doesn't have a spiritual understanding of what the life should be, what the life has to offer, what the life is about. So it's really important to understand the unknowable. And once we understand the unknowable, even the knowledge takes a different meaning. The knowledge that we acquire all of a sudden becomes a gift to Paramatma or a gift to the God that we already have experienced. And then utilizing the knowledge, it becomes a gift to us and we utilize it in a proper way. Otherwise, what we have seen is what is happening all over. First World War, Second World War, who knows, Third World War, all these destructions, all the atrocities that's been committed, it's all because of the lack of power behind the knowledge. The knowledge is good only if it is powered by the unknowable. The unknowable is a third dimension in life that is possible. So we have to go beyond the knowledge, and that's where the talk is about. So the problem is we are hooked up in the knowledge. The knowledge either brings us pleasure or it brings us suffering. And we are continuously bounced back between the two. And the religions come and tell us that these things are good, these things are bad. They say give up this and give up that. Sansari is running after the objects for the pleasure. Sannyasi is running away from the objects, thinking that those are the objects that brought me the pleasure, so I should run away. But we are not realizing that both are talking about the knowledge. The knowledge in a traditional way, knowledge of the material world, is all they're talking about. Running towards the women or running away from the women is still talking about women. Our minds are centered around the women. Running towards the alcohol, oh no, I cannot drink. Running away from alcohol, it's still talking about alcohol. This is a very subtle thing that people just don't get it. They spend their whole life either trying to run after the objects of pleasure or run away from the objects of pleasure. But our running never stops. And when the running stops, the unknowable starts.
You reach there.
That's where you realize all these things. So we have to understand the emotions that we're making in our life, are they motivated towards the material objects or not? If it is, then you're doing something wrong in life. And you're never going to reach the realm of the unknowable. The kingdom of unknowable is where all the run has to stop. So we have to understand that. So at the end of the life, the sansari is going to feel himself very empty because he's going to run after the objects of the pleasure, try to accumulate and accumulate and accumulate, and then ultimately give up everything. All his contacts with all the things that he has accumulated comes at a dead stop. And then he realizes that at the end of the whole life, I did not receive anything. I did not reach anywhere. But the same thing happens to the sannyasis also. He runs away into the Himalayas, he runs into the mountains, he runs into the seclusion, he runs into his own solitude, and then he says all these things are bad, but he never reaches the Paramatma. So to reach Paramatma is a different ballgame altogether, and that's why we are here to talk about it. So because the thing is that our running for the objects or running away from the objects, what is the motivating force behind it? If we really sit down to analyze what is the motivating force behind all these things, is our vrittis and vasanas. Vrittis and vasanas is something that is deeply embedded into our mind, into the deeper sectors of our mind, is filled with vrittis and vasanas. When a baby is born, he also has vrittis and vasanas, except they are not manifesting. His arms are not developed. He's not developed to go to the bar and pick up a bottle of champagne. He just cannot do it.
But craving is still
But
there.
craving is there in a very, very minute fashion. But we don't appreciate that. We don't see it. Even he does not see it. So to us, the children look so innocent. But every single child is born with deeply embedded vrittis and vasanas. These are tendencies. Our tendency to deviate on one side or the other. I always give an example. When you go to a town, 5 friends, each one carrying their vrittis and vasanas, one will end up in a bar, one will end up in a nightclub, another one will end up in a temple, third one will go for shopping, fourth one will go to Costco, whatever. Everyone gravitate, and at the end of the day, everybody had a good time and they go back home. But they didn't gain anything. They manifested their vrittis and vasanas. And that's all there is. The whole life, all we are doing is expressing our vrittis and vasanas. We are living a very horizontal life. Either we are trying to fulfill our vrittis and vasanas, or here and there we pick up bits and pieces and think that by creating new vasanas, we are replacing the old vasanas. So sansaris are fully fulfilling their vrittis and vasanas, but sannyasis are developing another set of vrittis and vasanas that these things are bad, and that's developing another channel in his mind that these things are bad, so I should stay away from them. But either way, nobody is realizing that the world that is in front of them, you can learn something from this society. You can learn from this world. You can learn from the material, only to realize the ultimate expression of the consciousness, ultimate expression of Paramatma that is happening right in front of us. Instead of learning from it, we are either running towards it or running away from it. But running away from it is also developing another vritti or vasanas. Ultimately, we are getting locked again into vrittis and vasanas. And again, we are born with saying that, oh, all these things are bad, so I should run away from it. Vrittis and vasanas are like deep channels that makes us deviate and gets us locked up only in that one direction. Like as if you are like in the top of a mountain. You're enjoying the free air. There is a beautiful surrounding and everything. And there is a groove. So a little bit wind comes or you have a tendency, you're going to fall into that groove. A groove, by digging it more and more, becomes a huge channel. And then you just tend to fall in that channel. So vrittis and vasanas drag us down. The Patanjali says, the first sutra in the Patanjali's Yoga Sutra is Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha. All the vrittis of the mind, when they disappear, that's yoga. So yoga is beyond vrittis and beyond the vasanas of any kind. Now how do we do that? Either if we go along with the vrittis and vasanas, indulge in them, of course we are not helping any. If we try to run away, that's also fighting. So there is a third dimension the yoga is teaching. Learn to observe them, what they are, analyze them, and then try to see what is happening. The vrittis and vasanas start losing their power. And then you realize that all these things were meaningless. All these have no value. What with the vrittis and vasanas are making us run after the objects or situations or the people, ultimately not leading anywhere. Ultimately we are like in a dead zone. Is that what we want to do all our life? Or we want to do something productive and lift ourselves? We know only east or west. We never know north and south. Either we are running east or we are running to the west. A crazy man rose to the east or west. What difference does it make? Either way, you are crazy. You are not learning the vertical lift. The vertical lift is looking at all these vrittis and vasanas in a really analytical way. And that's where the power of observation comes in. A true observer will analyze the whole thing, use his intellect. Intellect is not intelligence. Intellect is higher than intelligence. Intelligence only learns the knowledge and try to utilize for him or against him. So intelligence is a lot lower than intellect. Intellect is Vivek Buddhi. Vivek Buddhi makes you understand the whole process. That's where the power of meditation comes in. So vrittis and vasanas are like deep channels that makes us go run after. There was a philosopher named William James. Once he was making this point to one of his friends that vrittis and vasanas are so deep, our tendencies are so